Hello. Right, so we are going to start with the sales ledger control account. As you can see on the screen there, the format for the sales ledger control account is always on the screen. On the debit side, we'll be having the balance BD, then the credit sales for the month. Remember, here we are talking about the totals for the month. If you are saying sales here, we are basically talking about the credit sales for the month. We are talking about the totals for the month. As I said earlier on, that we are going to be extracting totals from various subsidiary books to the control accounts. So on the debit side here, we're having credit sales. We also have cash refunded. Remember, we're talking about cash refunded to credit customers. Then we also have dishonored checks. We also have interest on debt, or maybe interest on overdue accounts. So those items will be on the debit side. We are also going to be having a balance CD on the debit side. I'm going to explain later why we are having credit balance and a debit balance in the sales ledger control account. So we're having balance CD there. Then on the debit side, we are having a balance BD as opening balance there. Then cash bank there, we are basically referring to the receipts from the customers, from the credit customers. Then we also have bad debts written off, discounts allowed there on the credit side, returns inwards. Then we also have another item which is not there, set offs or maybe contra entries, another entry that should be on the credit side. And lastly, we've got the balance CD. So that's the format for the control account, as you can see there on the screen. Now let me explain on why we are having two balances there, debit balance and a credit balance. The sales ledger control account should, maybe the sales ledger accounts should normally have a debit balance. In other words, the debtors owe us the amount, so we have to recover money from them, and therefore they must have a debit balance. However, in other circumstances, we may have debtors accounts which may add up having a credit balance. So the examples could be in some scenarios. First scenario could be where a customer is fully paid for his account, and thereafter he returns some goods to the business. So his account will end up having credit balance in that instance. Then another scenario could be in another way where the customer is fully paid for his account, or maybe when a customer is overpaid his account. So in that case, the customer will end up having a credit balance. Then also have another scenario whereby when the customer is fully paid for his account, he may return goods to the business. So in that scenario, the customer's account will end up having a credit balance. So those are some of the reasons why we may have a credit balance in the sales ledger. So that is the format for the sales ledger control account. So let us move on to the purchase ledger control account and look at the format. Right, as you can see there on the debit side, there we are having bank, basically we're saying these are payments to suppliers. Then we also have returns outwards, or maybe purchase returns. We also have discounts received on the debit side. We also have contra entry on the debit side. Then we can also have again a balance BD on the debit side there. I'm going to explain why we can also have a debit balance in the purchase ledger control account, because normally it must have a credit balance, but in some scenarios we may have a balance on the debit side, right? So those are basically the entries that you can have on the debit side there, and you can also have a balance sheet there on the debit side. Then let us move on to the credit side. There we are having a balance BD. Then we also have credit purchases for the month on the credit side. We can also have a refund, the cash refund to the business in the case if we've made an overpayment to the suppliers. They can also refund money to us, so that entry will be entered on the credit side. We can also have interest on overdue account. Let us say we have delayed paying up the account. The supplier may charge us interest on our account, so that interest on the overdue account is going to be shown on the credit side of the purchase ledger control account. So those are the formats for the purchase ledger control accounts. So it is a very simple topic. Of course, we may have some few challenges when we go to the second part that contain some errors in the control accounts. So those are the control accounts format that I have shared with you today. In the next lesson, we are going to look at an example, and we'll see how we can prepare control account from a certain question. Good day.